Welcome to the September 27th Nashoba Regional School Committee meeting. We're calling the meeting to order at, if you wait a couple seconds, 6 o'clock. And the first item on our agenda, as always, is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? No? Okay. And the second agenda item, and I promise I'll go really quick because we want to get you guys up there, our school committee chair updates. A couple of quick things. Well, one quick one, two quick ones. The MASC-MASS joint conference, I think Mark's going, Kathy's going, Neil's going, I'm going.
I can't go.
You're not going. Did
Sorry.
you tell Lita that she does?
I did. She does.
Are you folks going?
I can't go.
No, it's okay. I'm not putting you on the spot. But if you're not going, I want you to take a look at this pamphlet because it's got all of the sessions and the breakouts, and let me know which ones you're interested in, and then we can divvy them up amongst the people that are going to be there. So I want it back, but take a look at it.
Sure.
All right. And that's in early November. The FY 17-18 calendar, I think, is in the packet, right, Elin?
Yes.
Okay, this is growing, so we're trying to contain it, but it really does support all of the goals that we have for the year. That's what all of those components are. So when we get to the end of every meeting agenda and we ask what are the items for the next agenda, we're just going to go through those and earmark which ones. And I just want to make sure, in order to give Superintendent Clenchy enough time to prepare, that if there's something in particular that you're interested in on that topic, that we give her the heads up so we don't, we try to control the flow of requests and the timing of those requests. Okay? And I know that there were a few things added. Every month has a student presentation, and I know we have some folks here with us tonight, so we're looking forward to hearing from you. And I think that's it for that. One of the things, Mark, I don't know if Neil brought up, was on the forensic audit line item. Did you guys talk about that?
We did not talk about it today in particular.
Okay. So when we get down to...
And it seems to be like pretty much a future-oriented topic in the sense of planning in the 2 or 3 year horizon.
So when we get down to the budget review with Pat and everything, I'm going to make a request of the finance subcommittee. So don't let me forget about that.
Okay.
Just to start planning for that instead of waiting every 3 to 5 years and then having to come up with a big nut.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys can take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the other component and what's on the agenda is per-pupil cost and 5-year enrollment trends. And the reason that is on the agenda, Pat, come play. Come to the table and play. Is because there's, in Bolton particularly, and one of the reasons I'm putting it under the chair updates is because it is town specific, but I think that there is some usefulness for other members on the committee and the communities of Lancaster and Stowe as well. There's been some discussion about a possible purchase of a large parcel of land in Bolton, and I know that folks have been talking and using per-pupil cost and the implication of housing developments in our towns and what that implication is in hard dollars to the taxpayers. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of numbers flying all over the place that just don't look right. So I asked Pat if she would come before the school committee for us and for the community to help us understand what is our per-pupil cost at a high level, and then what's that translate to for the assessment? Because I want to make sure that the folks who are doing their own analysis are using the appropriate and correct numbers, and there's so many documents on the website that they may not know where to find that information. So we're going to look at that, and then the other thing that I had asked Pat to do through the superintendent was to look at 5-year enrollment trends for the district as a whole and for each town. So for Bolton, for instance, no, that's not a good example. Let's take Stowe. So Stowe has 2 schools. So what you'll see when Pat hands it out is that total number of students in Stowe, not by school. The school committee's not going to do that work right now, and anyone who wants information about particular class sizes in a particular school needs to speak to their principal, because they really are the ones that hold the data and they know it best, okay? I think that's how we're gonna play that. So, Pat, give us an overview of per-pupil cost, if you would.
Well, per-pupil costs are, first of all, the costs are generated from our end-of-year report that we send to DESE every year. And they're behind.
DESE's behind.
DESE is behind. When the information comes out, it's usually 2 years behind. So right now, you're probably looking, they're just starting to post the fiscal year 16 information. So the numbers that we have currently are, this is fiscal year 16 on this paper that I have right here. The costs are probably higher than what's indicated here right now for fiscal year 17. And
so if you're, I would like, so if you could give us the numbers, but give us the numbers as they are, not that they might change. So if you have to go back to 15, take 15, but the number that isn't going to change.
no, it isn't going to change.
Okay, all right.
It definitely is
So
not
go
going
ahead,
to
I'm
change.
sorry.
So I think other things that you need to keep in mind too are the way in which they look at the expenditures themselves. The way that they compile the data. Now,
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what you're looking for here. Maybe
Okay.
I was.
So there,
Is
that's
it
all right.
kind of the
No, I
type
think,
of information
so
that
what
needs to
is
bring
the
forward?
fully loaded per pupil cost? And then there
Okay,
is
so,
adjustments that come through the state and grants,
right,
and then each town has an assessment.
right. And it's based on, there's a property valuation involved in that. It affects our Chapter 70, it involves our Chapter 70 monies.
So it's okay.
I wish I had that email that I drafted about how far behind they are. So the costs that they bring forward aren't always an accurate snapshot of what the per pupil costs are in a given year, because some of the data that they're comparing is a little off.
So if someone were trying to identify what number they should use for the cost of new students coming into the district, or even existing students for that matter, right? What number should they use? So 10 more kids would create X number of dollars.
Yes.
And that,
And that would be, it's a number that's going to be higher than the number that's there.
well, I want to know what the number is. I thought Brooke talked with you about this. She didn't?
No, she didn't go into.
All right, she's pulling something off right now, so
Okay.
why don't we let her do that, and then in the meantime.
I'm sorry,
No, you don't be sorry.
because
Then why don't we jump to the 5-year enrollment analysis? Do you have that documentation?
no, I don't have that documentation.
All right, so why don't we do this? You stay there, we're gonna jump on to the next agenda item, and then we'll come back when Brooke brings in whatever she's gonna bring in, okay? Except that it's the superintendent's report. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk to our friends from Florence Sawyer, Technovations. Hi, Mr. Bates, principal of Florence Sawyer Emerson Wing.
I just want to say thank you. In addition to the great benefits that we've had for your support for our middle level ITS during the day, we have this wonderful presentation, which is a school community partnership called Technovation, which is a charter club to give girls an opportunity to solve real world problems using technology and engineering and marketing skills. And I will turn it over to them.
We have our presentation up.
Okay.
Oh,
Their
yes.
presentation.
The tab is there, see. So while that's loading, I'm Stephanie Petito. I am the middle school ITS at the Florence Sawyer School.
I'm Lisa Yanakopoulos. I'm the industry mentor to the Technovation girls here. And what I value about this program is that it's not only teaching them STEM, which is sciences and programming, but also building confidence and being able to present. And at the end of the program, they collaborated and they came up with this app. So I'm really happy for them to explain.
And do you guys want to just introduce yourselves quickly before I start?
Okay, I'm Nina.
I'm Lizzie.
I'm Ava.
I'm Heather.
All right, so to get started, we have our presentation up here. Our logo appears in the corner up there, and we developed an app called TimeWise. As far as what Technovation is, so I got involved with it last year. I'm a big believer in getting girls involved in programming, developing, coding, developing their own business pitches, and all that good stuff. And I guess I would have to say it's probably been one of the most meaningful experiences of my educational career, being able to coach these girls, watching them start with nothing and develop a wonderful app. Technovation is a platform that allows females, and it is only for females, it allows them to decide what a problem is in their community, come up with a way to solve that problem, and develop some sort of technology tool in order to alleviate that problem. So these young ladies here, they're going to talk about what they did and what their process was like.
So the process we went through was we brainstormed a problem, and then we collected and analyzed data from students, parents, teachers, and administrators. We created a solution to the problem, and then we started building our app. We created a marketing strategy and a financial plan, and in the end, we presented to the judges. Last year, our mission statement was to create a better learning community by strengthening students' time management skills and reducing their stress.
The problem we saw that was middle schoolers having time management issues that led to stress. And our solution to that problem was to create an app that helps students manage their homework and their time and allows them to contact their teachers.
To code our app, we use MIT App Inventor 2, and also we have a calendar interface on our app, and to code that we use the web viewer.
So we have a short video of how our app works.
Go through it.
So our team, last year we looked at our competitors and we found what they brought to the table, and we saw that many of the other apps had a feature like a calendar or texting or a time chart, but none of those other apps had all three of those features like TimeWise did.
We also created a market plan. So our market plan was first to pilot with Florence Sawyer, and during this time we would collect statistics and success stories. Then we would send an email to the administrators of Worcester, and in this email would be an outline of our app. Interested schools would get a 3-month free trial period, and after this we would add our app to the Google Play Store for 48 cents per student, and then this would help us to expand to other schools and districts.
Some of our accomplishments are that we completed the student interface, and our goals is to have the app published to the Google Play and App Store, and to finish the interfaces for administrators and teachers, and to sell it to 100 districts.
One of our goals while creating the app was to expand it and to more schools, and we also hope to donate to the American Institute of Stress. And overall, we want to help students with their time management skills, and we want to reduce student stress.
What we learned last year was how to create a business plan, form a winning idea, and how to work as a team. We also had an opportunity to explore coding in more depth. We also learned about different kinds of stress and some extreme side effects that can come with it. Is there any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Kathy?
So, are any students in the Nashoba region using your app?
So last year we didn't, as it was our first year, we didn't totally get to finish our app, and there was another part of it that we would have needed to finish before we would get to that point.
Okay, and is there a reason why you are approached, I'm assuming when you say Worcester Administrator, it's the Worcester Public Schools to market this? Why did you choose Worcester and not?
Well, we were mostly just like schools in the area.
Oh, I see, okay. Good work.
Lenny?
I'm sorry if this is a repeat question. What are the different types of stress? You said there's different types of stress.
So we mostly looked at like stress from homework and like school-related things, but we also found that there was more serious stress that could be from other things maybe going on at home. And so we also learned about those, but we didn't really include them in our app.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm so impressed. I understand that you tried to get this down to 8 minutes flat. Is there truth to that?
Wow. Nice
I know
job.
that. I think you started off with, 15 slides or something such, and we had to kind of pare it down and say, listen, can you do this within 10 minutes, you know? By the way, I love the shirts. I love the Cotarellas. That is just amazing with the princess carriage on it and such. I love, Principal Bates was talking to me about this earlier, you know, the whole notion of the work that you're trying to do, and I love the approach. The approach is just spot on, and I love what the work that you've done here has been absolutely phenomenal. So to the moms that are also in the room here that brought the daughters, I think this is amazing. Very, very impressive to all of you. Thank you so much for the hard work. I love the thinking behind it. Just first class. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for you set the bar high for everybody else that's going to follow you.
Wow. Thank you so much to the parents for bringing the students too. We really appreciate the teaching staff. Thank you so much for all your work and your great ideas. Just awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so do we need to move this agenda item to the next meeting? You understand what, did you share with?
Yeah, well, I said, I think that, first of all, maybe Chairman Romosco can explain again. I think one of the things that we're looking at here is just, we need to really keep a couple things in mind when we're looking at that per-pupil cost. And how you break it down. And I think sometimes people think that it's just the same across every district, across the Commonwealth, and it doesn't work like that. And very often how school districts input their data that we send to the state, how we classify something will be different than, could be Groton Dunstable or different than Boston or certainly different than Harvard or whatever. So that number is always, I think she hit it right on the head when she said, there's all these different documents that you can pull from, and it's kind of like, how do you navigate this to get to exactly where you are? And my concern at times is that people take these numbers and they look at it and say, oh my gosh, this is the truth, and it isn't. It just tells you a story about, in our case, our numbers and how we utilize our money. But to compare it to apples and oranges to oranges is not really fair at all. And it differs from staff, the way your staff is oriented, the type of staff that some districts will put. For example, some districts might put more emphasis on hiring IAs than another school district. All of those things go into this number. And this number is a changing number every year. And to Pat's point, it's generally not a current number either. So you always have to kind of keep that in the back of your mind too. So I think there's a lot of numbers in play here. The other thing too that Chairman Roscoe had us do is take a look at our school district enrollment, exactly as she said, for the last 5 years, and take a look at that. So we did, we laid it out from 2012 to 2017, and I know that she said the other night at our meeting as well with the high school, or the advisory committee, it's kind of plateaued. If you take a look at our numbers, they've kind of gone up, did a little bit of a peak, and have kind of come back down. So for the district though, as a district, the numbers are pretty relatively flat. I mean, we don't see huge bubbles of 50 or 60 or whatever. We might have an influx, but then we also have kids go, and I think that sometimes that's missed as well. And she and I had this discussion the other day too. You know, you can say, oh, well, geez, we got maybe 13 new bodies into Bolton, for example. What's lost though is we might have lost 10 bodies. And I think people need to understand that these numbers are ebb and flow all the time, just as these numbers are. These numbers though from the state, when you take a look, when you go into the DESE website, these are a myriad of different things, and it's not like the state says, okay, this is exactly what has to be in this line, this is exactly what has to be in that line. It doesn't work like that. So you really have to look at these numbers with a really open mind, and it's really not the case of comparing apples to apples.
So I'm not as much concerned about the comparison right now. I'm really think what we talked about, what I think people wanted to hear is what are we using as a per pupil cost?
And I can speak to that.
That's what we need.
Okay.
That's all I wanted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I wasn't really
That's okay.
as prepared as I should have been for this, I guess.
That's okay.
So, here's an example. In fiscal year 15, we had a per pupil expenditure of $14,264. The general fund appropriation was $45,457,000. The student population was 3,605 people. It's basically $12,606 per pupil. If you back out the state and federal funding, the Chapter 70, the regional transportation, the charter school reimbursement, and the Medicaid, the cost is lower than what the actual cost per student by appropriation is. So that's the true cost to the district.
And that's what
the
gets
number
passed
that you're looking at.
along to the town. So I want to, before you go on, I just want to clarify for people that may not be used to looking at these numbers, and they're not seeing it anyway. So,
Right.
which would be helpful. We could
put this up
there.
I can put this up in a slide where this is a little clearer.
I think the fully loaded cost of educating a student in the district in FY15 ended in June of 2015. So it's been 2 years. That fully loaded cost was roughly $12,600.
Right.
Okay, so from that $12,600 2 years ago,
Right.
which is, and it doesn't fluctuate that much. Hopefully this year we're not going to get hurt by the state. There are grants that come out, that come to the district to help us offset for a myriad of
All kinds
things.
of things.
We also have additional monies that come from the state to help. We don't need to get into the details on that. We just
Right.
want people to understand
Yeah.
the big picture here, right? And then when you take that bucket of money that comes in from different sources and you extract that from the fully loaded cost, then the per pupil cost, which is the assessment, which forms the assessment that's passed along to each of our 3 towns, and it varies a little by each of the 3 towns,
Exactly.
is roughly what?
Well, for fiscal year 15, about $10,000 in comparison to the $14,000 that comes from the end of the year report. They're taking every expenditure into account, and if you look at just the assessments, it's significantly less.
All right, so now we need to revise something, because the 12.6 is not the fully loaded cost, because you just mentioned 14, right?
No, because I think you kind of mixed a couple of different things there. The 14 includes the grant and revolving and other funds. The 12,000 includes the regional transportation, the charter school reimbursement, so it's state money.
So the fully loaded cost is not 12.6, the fully loaded cost is
It's
14.
Change.
Okay, So the fully loaded cost is 14. When you take the revolving funds and the grants out, we're looking at, in the assessment to the towns, approximately $10,000
Right.
per student for FY15.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's where we needed to get to.
So we can update these numbers to include all of this?
I don't even know that we
This is
need
fiscal
all
year.
this data. All we really need to know is when a new student moves into the town, what is the cost to the district? Understanding that there is fluctuation in the reimbursements from the state. It's not the same every year.
And the grants.
And the grants. And understanding that the underlying expense, I mean, we've got salaries that have to be paid, and there's an increase in the salaries, there's an increase in the health insurance, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. Okay, but that net number is approximately 10,000,
Right.
not 14,000. And I think that's where,
Right, and that's the number that the state publishes.
right, but again, the context of this is, when people are looking at children moving into the district and the cost to educate the children, what is passed through to the taxpayer is
The $10,000.
the $10,000. That's where we're at. Okay, does everybody get that?
Well, why do we need to get it? I mean, what is the issue?
There is no issue, and unfortunately, this has gone kind of sideways. It was just an understanding of what's our per pupil cost, fully loaded, and what's the net that's passed along to the towns for the assessment when people are trying to identify cost of students
To the
coming
town.
into the district. That's all.
The cost of the town.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so does everybody understand that? If you're looking at the fully loaded cost, it's 14. If you're looking at what's passed to the towns, to the taxpayer for FY15, it's
Right.
10,000. Because I think what we were seeing was 14,000, 14,000, 14,000.
Right.
Okay, but the difference between the 10 and the 14 fluctuates based on reimbursements, whatever, grants.
Could go up a little bit, a little depend on.
Those numbers are always going to move, and they're also going to be affected by your student population too. Like, it all comes into play. They're all
Right, but
whole
again, and we talked about this, the only thing we need to do is give people a general number they could use right now if they're looking at planning
right.
out.
No, I understand
Right?
exactly where you're coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Kath, I hope there's not a lot of conversation about this.
No, it's
because-
just a suggestion.
Mhm.
If this is an area that we have to build understanding about, then a suggestion, a thought might be to include an explanation in the budget book and break it down, because I hear what you're saying, I understand it, but there's a lot of abstract stuff there. So to show folks how it is derived in maybe a few years, so it becomes a resource that we can direct folks to.
And I think that does happen. I'm not going to give Pat and Superintendent Clenchey homework right now, but I think that I think that does happen in the past couple of years' presentations at town meeting, because the formula is up on the slide. Those slides are available online as well. But again, the purpose of this discussion was just what's the fully loaded cost and what's the cost that feeds into the assessment. Okay. Period. Yep. Lynn, is it a quickie?
It is, I'm not sure what to do with that.
Nothing. It's just a point of reference. It's a point of reference. Okay, we're moving on. Well, that took a little bit of time. You want to do your superintendent's report?
I would love to do my
Great.
superintendent's report. Aren't those kids so cute? Oh my gosh, they did a great job tonight. So I'm going to start with asking Principal Mulcairn and Principal DiDomenico to come to the table. If you can both come to the table, that would be great. We've got new folks that you're going to bring on board, so we'd ask Christy Elin and Beth Pratt to come forward. And I'm going to start my superintendent's report with introducing a couple of new players. And I'm going to turn it over to Principal McCarron first.
Wonderful. Thanks for the opportunity to meet with you, and I want to introduce you to our new assistant principal at the center school, Christy Elin. Christy comes to us from the Acton Boxborough Public Schools, where she taught in each of the grades 3 through 6. and worked in an administrative role for the principal during an extended absence last year. She also took on leadership role as a coordinator of the after-school enrichment program, and as a lead teacher, she co-facilitated the curriculum committee, created a new master schedule, and led a school-wide gratitude initiative. She'll be presenting this work in October at the Greater Good Science Center Gratitude Summit for Schools in Seattle. There's a lot. There's a lot. But essentially, the Gratitude Summit for Schools in Seattle. She was one of 4 teacher leaders on a team with responsive classroom creator Chip Wood, and she was also on that team with Open Circle creator Pamela Siegel on their new initiative that they're doing called Leading Together. Leading Together has a focus on growing relational trust in the adult community, work that Christy co-facilitated at conferences throughout Massachusetts. Christy has a bachelor's degree from UMass Amherst in sociology and a master's degree in elementary education from Salem State University. She has a second master's degree from Endicott College through the EDCO Leadership Institute with a major in organizational management. I would also add that the tipping point during the process for the new assistant principal search came when I asked candidates a question that was essentially, during the last school year, we were designated as a level 1 school based on accountability data. We were also designated as a high progress school, accommodation school for high progress. From the state, we had the visit from the commissioner, all great accolades. I asked candidates, what does that mean to you in your application process? And, what does that mean to you moving forward? Christy set herself apart in that answer by talking about, obviously we have achievement goals to continue to reach. However, she added in, the piece, I think, about what touches people to become educators, and she said essentially, we can't forget about joy. We can't forget about love of learning. Those things are paramount to the achievement, and they drive the achievement. So she became a front runner and certainly has communicated that ever since. We are up and running. I think we're a great team so far, and Center School is doing very well with her working with me. So Christy, I think, wants to say a couple words as well.
Thank you everyone for having this opportunity to come meet you and talk with you. I am thrilled to be a part of the Nashoba community. From the very first day on the job, I felt the support of Superintendent Clenchy, Ross, the entire Nashoba team, and the staff and students at Center School. I appreciate all of that support deeply as I learn this new role in the new community. I'm slowly learning 600 students' names. They're helping me practice. There are 2 themes that I keep reflecting on and how impressed I am with this district. The first is the systems and structures that are in place at the district and at the school level that the administrators put in place to support learning and teaching. And the second is how deeply students and families and individuals and staff members are cared for. And I think that balance is hard to strike, and Nashoba strikes it amazingly well. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow. Thanks so much, Christy. We're thrilled to have you. We really are. And I think that you bring a wonderful effervescence and a wonderfully refreshing approach to it. And we're just thrilled to have you. So welcome on board. So, Mr. DiDomenico, your turn. If you could introduce Ms. Pratt.
I can. Thank you, Superintendent Clenchy. Beth Pratt has held administrative positions in the public schools of Fitchburg, Leominster, and Greenfield. In Fitchburg, she developed the Fitchburg Alternative High School, which is still in place as the Goodrich Academy. And in Leominster, she collaborated on the design and implementation of the Gifted and Talented program, Project LEAP. Beth has many years of experience as a principal at both the elementary and middle school levels and served as an acting high school principal for a year. She was the director of curriculum, where her accomplishments included launching the educator evaluation system, including the use of Baseline Edge, which we use in our system, and writing and administering the Titles I and Title IIA grants, and the DSAC and the Academic Support Competitive Grants. Beth has a bachelor's degree in science and health education from UMass Lowell and a master's of education and counseling from Worcester State University. She's a candidate for a doctorate degree in curriculum, instruction, and assessment at Walden University. We're thrilled to have Beth on board. At the high school, we have a unique administrative team, along with Brian Cody and Steve Cullinane. Beth and I come in, we're looking at the school with new eyes, so to speak, and Brian and Steve are certainly steeped in the traditions that are Nashoba Regional High School. So Beth has brought a lot to our team. She's really taken the lead in rolling out the evaluation system for this year. And the four of us as a team are looking forward to getting together and doing more work on that.
Great, thanks. Beth, any thoughts from you?
I feel like I have a tough act to follow here. That was a great and I feel a lot of the same way. It's been a very welcoming entrance to the district, you know, at the high school, on the district level. And, you know, just today I had a great day. I went to a conference with DEOC with the math coordinator. Joel was there. Laura, friend, was there. It was a great collaborative team. And so those kind of experiences are really what somebody who, Beth has a lot of experience. That means I've been in the business for a long time. You know, I'm not the new administrator, but those are the kind of things you look for. I really was looking for a great team. And so I felt it at the district level. I've certainly felt it at the building level. I've been into some great classrooms already. I've been into over 15 classrooms as a supervisor and had individual conversations with people. And, you know, even somebody who's, you know, might want to be learning something new, very open, very receptive, and something that I'm really looking forward to nurturing and feeling great about. And
Well,
thank you for the opportunity.
I think, Beth, you too fill the bill exactly with what we were looking for, because a couple months ago, this very committee was sitting around the table saying, okay, what does this look like, this position? And then you come along and it was like, wow, check, 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 check. You know, and you know, when Paul said to me the other day, yeah, she's got us all organized for educator evaluation, I thought, yeah, Kathy's heart would be soaring when she hears that. So you really, just like Christy brings exactly what we were looking for Central, you bring exactly what we're looking for the high school, and we welcome you both. I mean, you're right, it is a great team. We spent a lot of time around this table, and it's just a fabulous group of people. So you're a great addition. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight, so that we can meet you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having us. Thanks, guys. Alrighty.
A couple other things, yeah, just quick things. So the Nashoba Regional High School Advisory Committee met for its first meeting the other night on Monday evening. Just more of an organizational meeting. A really, really good group of people. Really looking forward to that. We've got 3 folks from every community on the team, including 1 representative from school committee on each. The group decided, they took a vote, and they decided to put Bob Zakansky in as the chair for the group, and Lynn Coletti, our own Lynn Coletti, will be acting as the secretary, taking notes and keeping us all in line. So we're looking forward to that. I want to talk for just 2 seconds quickly on staffing. 2 openings that I just want to note this evening. Our Director of Facilities, Jeff Converse, has tendered his resignation. I believe I sent that note around to you. His last day is tomorrow, and so we've got the posting up. We've got several applications that have already come in. We're going to be interviewing as early as next week for that position, so we're hoping within the next 2 to 3 weeks to have that position filled. So we've certainly got a fair number of applications in for that. Unlike our nurse leader, which I've spoken to you about last meeting, I come to you again tonight and say, I still don't have anyone at all. So I think that we decided earlier today that we're going to sit down tomorrow and probably think a little out of the box on that position, because we really, we can't continue to go without, and we can't continue to send Anne Marie off. I believe she's going off again tomorrow to her nurse leader conference again. And, you know, I said, you know, we can't continue to have her as nurse leader and Pat as our director of facilities. I mean, we just, you can't take those 2 additional roles on. And so, because other things start to fall away by the wayside. So we're going to probably come to you next time with a little bit different approach to the nurse leader than we've been trying to take in the traditional, because it's just not working. We've got no one on board right now, no one. And no new applications coming in. I just want to give a shout out to our grounds facilities crew. Speaking of facilities, I don't know if you've driven around the schools, but you'll see. Did you see it last night?
I did.
Our little scarecrow display. There's a little. It is a nice touch. A little fall display in each of the communities. There's a couple up at Center, one up at Hale. one here, one in Lancaster, so special thanks to, that wasn't something that we asked for, it just all of a sudden one day showed up, and that was our facilities group, so a shout out to them. Budget, I know that Pat's going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but just know that we're already working well on the 2019 as we start to pull things together, looking at different scenarios, and so I know she's going to talk a little bit more, and I'll probably help her out with that. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you very much. I think the next item on the agenda is our business manager's report. So Pat, you get to come back up. I'm gonna let Brooke coach you on this one, so. Because clearly I wasn't speaking English, but go ahead.
So we've got a couple things that we've asked Pat to talk about tonight. She's just going to do a kind of give you a bit of an update on where we sit basically now within the FY18 budget. She's going to talk briefly about some of the processes that we've already started for FY19 and a bit of an update on that. She's going to just really briefly talk about revolving accounts because, again, it's not a lot unlike even these kinds of numbers here. When you talk about the numbers like for pupil, I mean, there's a lot of moving targets, and she's going to talk about revolving accounts. But again, I keep your questions if you can to a bit of a minimum because there are so many moving targets on that as well. This is a snapshot in time at this second, and that's what she's going to touch base on tonight. She's got a request she's going to run by for the Hale Math Club and just a really 2-second update on buses. And so she's going to try to crunch all of that as quickly as she can.
So first of all, I have up here on the screen the results of operations for the month of July through August. As you can see, I don't have any projected deficits in any of the accounts at this point. Like I said, this is the end of August. There isn't a lot going on as far as, the teachers aren't back, so this is about where we stand at that point. I'll have another update at the end of September, and you'll see maybe a little bit more movement in the accounts as to where things are and where, an idea of where we'll land at the end of the year.
Are there any things you want us to be aware of that you're watching?
A couple of things that I'm watching are, the facilities department, for one thing. We're looking at all of our projects there. We're trying to be very conservative on what projects we actually continue with this year. Some came through a little bit more expensive than we had anticipated. Substitute teachers, that's always a challenge for us. I projected that the cost would be what we had budgeted, but we don't know that. Have to look at the trends. I don't see anything else in particular. Everybody seems to be where they should be at this point, and they should have a little bit of money where it says projected expenditures. There should be a little bit of money there, and there is, and I'm very comfortable with that at this point.
Any questions, Kathy?
Yeah, if this is for July and August, what are the expenditures for substitute teachers, the $70,000?
Well, basically, what I do is I consider them an encumbrance.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just projecting, yes, we're going to spend all of that money. We may not.
So, but again, for July and August, why call out $70,000? As a total expenditure. So the annual, you've budgeted.
Oh, the reason.
Yeah.
That would be because we're anticipating, we have some long-term subs that are already in place.
So you're budgeting for that, okay.
So we've already taken that into account.
Great, okay, no.
And if we know ahead of time of other people that are already, it's already encumbered.
Sure.
Right, and that's one of the things that I've asked the schools to do this year is if you have expenditures that you have every year, encumber them. We need to know what these expenditures are because if things get lean at the end of the year, we want to be able to make a move to freeze the budget or if we have to. So I made sure that they've encumbered everything and that they're spending the money that they need to spend at this point.
We've already indicated that we'll probably freeze the budget around that February, March, April, right in that window anyway. We've told them that that's probably going to happen.
Okay, good. Lynn?
Teaching and learning. You've used more than half of the money. And I'm just wondering how that happened.
I don't, see, I think
In the total
Look at this one.
expenditures and projected expenditures, if some of it, the salary, a lot of the people in that grouping are administrators, so we've already started to spend some of the money in that category. And some of the,
And encumbered
the
it
events,
already.
they've been encumbered already. So I know, I have an idea what the mentors are going to be. So I've taken that into account. They're encumbered, and I know what the salaries are going to be. So that's why I'm not anticipating any surpluses at that point.
And same with Florence Sawyer, because you've almost used all of it in Florence Sawyer. And Mary Robinson.
Right, and
Am I looking at
again,
this wrong?
and again, the total expenditures includes the encumbered funds.
it's really important to understand that it includes a lot of encumbered funds already, like things that we already know.
Right, the
right up
salaries.
front are
Yeah.
coming.
But it hasn't been spent. Right.
It hasn't
Exactly.
been spent as such. So I mean,
Okay.
if you take
It's
a
earmarked.
look at this line, it doesn't mean that this has all been spent
Right.
at this moment in time. But we already know, as we sit here, that 70,000 of this has to be earmarked right here, right now. So
Okay.
so we want to have
And
the
we've
right
been very
perspective on
careful
this.
to do that.
Okay.
Mark, you're
No,
good?
no comments. No.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just for clarity's sake, would it be better, or maybe that's not the best word, but to have total expenditures includes encumbrances or something like that? Because to me, they're two different things. Expenditures is something you already spent, and then encumbrance means you're planning to spend it.
So I think that that's probably a really good
exactly.
idea, because you're absolutely right. It creates confusion. So I would agree
Okay,
with you. I
I
think
will
we
do
need to
that.
rename that.
Did you folks work with the administration on this report?
Last year, we worked to create this particular format as a simplified version of finances to help
Yeah.
make a fairly straightforward presentation.
Okay.
And we were realizing that we want to talk about more detailed report, perhaps at the finance committee level.
Okay.
This is sort of an overall big one-page picture, and then there are other information that perhaps we may need at various points of the season, which is a future conversation.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
Awesome, thanks. 19?
So an update for fiscal year 19, I'm watching the state website very closely. The information that we have right now is that our circuit breaker money for this year, this is money that we receive in this year, is going to be reimbursed at 65%. It's about 9% reduction from prior years. And the projected amount is $746,000. It's about $125,000 less than what we've had in the past. So this impacts funding for fiscal year 19, because we use this as an offset to our out-of-district tuition, or we charge
So it's a year
out-of-district
behind.
tuition. It's always a year behind.
So when will we know what the state's going to actually do, Pat?
Boy, that's a moving target too, because
We won't know
sometimes
until June.
Sometimes you don't know till June or July. That's absolutely right. So I've seen years where they've done another cut bigger than this at the tail end, and you find out, like, I think that year was like August 15th or August 12th.
So what happens when we get towards the end of the year and we're at a deficit? Where does the money come from?
Well, it doesn't, we receive the money in this year.
Right.
We don't use
So we would use it to
next
plan
year.
for FY19.
So we already know what we have for last year, so we're all set.
We're all set for this year, so there's not going to be a deficit for this year.
So we would use it, yes, I understand that. So what we would do is when you're planning FY19, you're taking that into consideration.
That's exactly right.
And that's why they release these numbers so early, so they know people are starting to budget.
All right, thanks.
These are the revolving funds. Yeah, there were quite a few of them. And I have notations besides several of the revolving funds, and they're dormant accounts. And we had discussed in form of FinCom that we would, that probably the best thing to do would be to close these dormant accounts to the gift accounts at the respective schools. And I think we will do that when we close the books.
That's good, it makes it cleaner.
Yeah.
Yes, and it will reduce the number.
And it's kind of on us to create a policy so that there's a standard procedure, so that the administration is directed to close them according to some policy that we make. And so we are behind as a school committee in creating a procedure to do that and a policy.
Well, if that's the case, then
And it's on the finance and the budget committee as well as I'm sure the policy committee to this year to put that, square that away.
So then, do you know if MASC has anything?
Don't know.
Because I think that's the first place to look, is see if they have something that we could start from, right?
Yeah.
So who's going to take that one and then bring it
I mean,
back?
if you could draft, see, that's the thing, I don't know.
I think that I had offered to do that at the
Okay.
meeting today, to look at the MASC
good.
model policy manual to see what they have. So that was on my list of things to do from the budget and work committee meeting this morning.
So is there timing that we want to target getting this policy done?
I think over the course of this
That could be
year
a
we
school
should do
year.
it.
Yeah.
It's not a
So it'd be
not a
great
rush,
to-
but it's something to do right
I
and to
think it's
do
just a cleanup,
carefully.
it's a housekeeping thing they want to take care of.
Without going back through section, we've already reviewed section D. So I'm guessing that would be in section D. So off the top of my head, I don't know if Dorothy suggested a mask policy, so I can look to, or I can forward that section to you.
If you want,
Or whichever.
I can look it up. It's just
So then maybe
familiar with
if there's time, because I know we're doing A tonight, if there's time, we could possibly slip this in for when D is going to come to the school committee anyway. But that's dependent upon
yeah.
if there's a boilerplate that we
Right.
can start from.
Right.
And
Right.
okay, so then you guys will include that in your rotation, right? Okay, thanks. Great.
Okay, great, if we can move on then.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to
The Hale Math Club?
the Hale Math Club Activity Fund request. Kyle Grady, principal of the Hale Middle School, is requesting that we add Math Club to the after-school activity account, which is student activities. For each student participates in a competition called Math Counts. It's a fun and competitive way for students to strengthen their math and problem-solving skills. The establishment of a club would provide students with an established venue and time to prepare for these competitions. And we need a vote from you to...
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's a great idea, and I think it's, but in terms of cost, is it a stipended position?
Not this year.
Okay, are there any costs associated with the club?
Only what all the costs are absorbed by the students at this point to
So
participate.
the students will pay a user fee?
Well, they don't pay a user fee. Whatever events or needs that they have, they collect the money from the students. A lot of the activities are like that.
Okay, so currently there's $47,933 in the Hale user fee account. So how is that money, what's the plan for the use of that money in the user fee account?
The user fee for...
I just saw it in this.
For Hale.
Yeah,
Oh, for Hale,
it's $47,933.
And that, I think, is athletics.
That's probably athletic.
That's
no.
athletics.
It doesn't go down.
But again,
It's totally different. Student activities
yes,
is a separate fund that we as a district are custodians of those funds.
Right.
It's money that's owned by the students.
this money.
Right, this club that he's
Oh.
establishing, that would be money collected from the students for their activities. So this club is going to be in that fund.
But I
It's
think
not
what
gonna be part
Kathy's
of it.
asking is, what are we doing with the rest of the balance, that big balance?
Well, I want to focus on the math club first, and if somebody is, I don't know what the you know, it's wonderful that a teacher's going to volunteer his or her time for it, but is it the idea to perhaps see how it goes this year and maybe put it
Yes.
forward as a stipended position in the
This
future?
is piloted.
Okay, and then what are the anticipated costs to students?
That, I can get that information for you, I don't have it.
Okay, and I think that, and I'm aware that if the student is unable to cover the cost, there is a source of funding for children who don't
Within
have
the
means.
student activity funds, yes, there are some funds in there that are discretionary.
Okay. Yeah, but we don't have to do it tonight because we got other things, but I would like a breakdown of what that money,
Okay.
accountability for that money, the $47,000.
So,
So that's different though than
Oh, yeah,
That's
well, I'd like to,
athletics.
and I'm sorry, I'm a broken record about this, you must think I'm a
That's okay.
dummy, and I am in math, but I'd like to see what the breakdown is in that, because it's a lot of money for a middle school student activity fund.
Okay.
And it'd be nice to be able to spend it on fun things. Yes.
Okay,
So,
so let's not get off track.
but when
What?
it does become stipend, where does the stipend come from? Where does that money come from?
The
Comes
question
from the
is,
district.
the district is the one that funds the stipends. It doesn't necessarily come from a separate account.
So how is that determined?
Oh, your overarching budget is in your budget
Right.
process.
No, but who determines what it is and that it actually happens? Is that just assigned by the principal? Is it signed by you? Does the school committee have to vote
Right,
on it?
the principal would budget for that stipend, say in fiscal year 19, and if it's approved, he will have an established stipend for
Okay.
that position.
Okay, so for right now, though, what do you need from us?
I just need a vote establishing the math club at the Hale.
I move
Middle
that,
school.
I'm sorry. I move we vote to establish the math club at the Hale Middle School.
Second.
House.
Yep, and Mark, nice, thank you, second. Any
And this is in part
discussion?
to establish an account in the Student Activities Fund so they can collect monies for
Right,
their
and
own
it could go
expenses.
through there. That's right.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous, the vote passes.
A 2-second
Motion passes.
update on buses.
Okay, just a quick update. We're still working on fine tuning a lot of the bus routes. There's a change that takes place tomorrow at the Luther Burbank route. It's bus numbers 17 and 27, and the parents have been informed, and hopefully it is a solution to some issues with some
Great.
time scheduling. that we've
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat, I appreciate it. Okay, so we're moving on to new business. The school committee operating protocols are in your packet. And Kathy, I'm gonna turn this over to you.
Okay. I think 3 years ago, we had a workshop with Dorothy Presser from MASC and talked about norms, group norms, and protocols, and we had developed some, and then each year we attempt to improve upon them. Over the last year, the Personnel Subcommittee has looked at examples of norms and operating protocols from other districts, and in drafting our school committee manual, have sort of created these as suggested protocols. I think that all of them represent things that are consistent with the MASC guidelines for school committee protocols and are consistent with state regulations with regard to the charge of the school committee and also ethics around how school committees operate. So we are recommending that we put these, I don't know if it's going to be page 10 and 11 in the draft manual, but to replace what we had in the original first draft of the manual, we are recommending that we replace that information with these operating protocols.
So we haven't voted the handbook yet.
No,
but we could, is that what you're looking for?
Yes, an approval of this, because it's a big part, it's central to what we do.
Has everybody read the protocol? And does anybody have any questions or concerns about it? Because I think it looks great.
I do too.
Lynn? Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Lynn?
Come on, Lynn.
No, it's just, I'm just reading, school committee members will attend meetings on time. I'm like,
Okay.
Okay, except for Lynn. Everybody attends meetings on time except for Lynn. But moving on, because I don't want to get behind, and we've got folks that are sitting here waiting. If there are no changes, are recommended, suggested, or demanded, then would someone please like to make a motion to accept the 2016-2017 school committee protocols as drafted?
I move that we accept the, now I've already lost track of the dates.
All you have to say is so moved. You just have to say so moved.
So moved.
Good job. And second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Yep.
The motion passes. We now have protocols. Lee,
Thank
can
you.
we get those on the website somewhere? Oh, no, we
Okay,
don't.
They're going to be in the manual.
That's
and
right.
I think the manual's, well, it'll come up sooner or later, but.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. And
Thank you.
Susan, Section A Policy Manual Review, that's a big chunk of work.
Okay, so I sent the proposed changes in the chart form, which when I was typing it out, looked like it made more sense than when
That
I
chart
read it.
was really helpful.
So I hope it worked okay for you.
It was great.
I don't know if you want me to list the policies and then tell you even if there are no changes? Or do you
No,
want me to just
I think
address
if
them?
has everyone read the policies and the suggested changes? Okay, so what I think we should do is, if everyone has, Scout's honor, read the policies, do you have any concerns or questions? And Susan, you've aggregated all of the comments.
Yes, I got some comments some feedback from you on the bylaw section, which isn't something that Dorothy made recommendations to us about because it was the Nashoba bylaws. So I haven't added those in and communicated them to the rest of the school committee.
So we
I
can pull
speak to
those out and do those separately, but I do want to talk about them because I think there's some, some outdated.
They're outdated, yeah.
Yes.
Really
Yes,
outdated.
yes.
And those are our bylaws, so
Exactly.
I'll let you, so if there's any.
Well, they were approved though in 2016.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that.
No, I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So are there areas that we need to discuss? Did anyone have questions
no.
that? No?
So,
All right.
So I do have one question. There's an inadvertent change in the bylaws that is stuck in by mistake. We amended the bylaws in 2016, and that amendment did not stick. And in your draft, you need to put it back to the amended version.
Okay.
So that's even better that we pull the bylaws out.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
So I'll send you the link and
Great.
to everything so that you can trace it. I guess an
So
old
Dorothy
version of the
didn't
file
have the
got
updated
used,
version.
and so the amendment didn't stick to the bylaws.
Okay, so that might rectify some of the changes you had suggested.
Yeah.
So why don't we do the bylaws at the next school committee meeting?
Okay.
And then, thank you, Mark, for the catch.
Yep.
And that's probably, now I understand what you were saying earlier. That's probably why I had an issue with what I was
Sure.
saying.
Yep.
Okay, so if
Although
it-
one of the changes that you suggested was the forensic audit every 3 years, adding that to the bylaws.
To the bylaws?
Yep.
So if we talk about the bylaws at the next meeting.
Yep, that would be.
And I'd like to amend that to 5, but if we talk about the bylaws at the next meeting, then we can address that.
Yep.
So if anyone, does anyone have any questions or comments about any of the other work excluding the bylaws in section A? No?
There's one concern that I have. It's the ADF, the School District Wellness Program. I know that Donna was working on that. So there was no recommendation. That's completely being held because it was a very complicated. She seemed to think it would be like a year-long process. So we may need to pull that out as well.
So where are we keeping track of all these ones that we know we're gonna have? Are you guys keeping track of them?
Yeah, it's just a hold
Okay.
on the.
So if there's no other changes, if we're good, are we good on the others? Then,
I think so.
yeah,
I haven't heard from anyone else.
no, Lynn? Kathy? Mark?
Good.
You had yours, that was a good one. Then I think someone can move to accept.
To approve it in form. And then so section by section, and then we have to do an approval of the
So
entire.
why don't you go ahead and make the motion?
I move that we approve section A of the Nashoba Regional School District Policy Manual excluding
District bylaws.
policy AA-E, which is the school committee bylaws. Oh, sorry. And ADF, the school district wellness program.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any comments? All those in favor?
Can I just make a comment? I think you've done so much beautiful work with this. Thank you so much. I just think it's great.
Dorothy makes it very easy.
Oh, don't sell yourself.
Take the data.
All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you so much, Policy Subcommittee, for the work on that. Finally getting our policies in line. Okay, the Aspet Valley Collaborative Board of Directors vote.
This is a 2-second thing. Every year you appoint your superintendent to serve as your representative with the Aspet Valley Collaborative. It's a yearly thing, and I'm coming forward this year, and I need you to make a motion, please, to appoint me to that committee.
Mark, you want to do it?
Sure. I also have a comment.
Sure.
In the form of maybe it's a future discussion of the school committee in the sense of instruction. It annoys me that they have zero budgeted for their OPEB. And of all people, they should be assessing everybody fees for service so that they can pay their own OPEB.
Huh, interesting.
And I would like you to raise that at
I'd
the
be
board
happy
level.
to.
If assuming the rest of the school committee is agreeable to this.
I think that makes
I think we
sense.
have to appoint her first. Don't
I
give us something to
understand.
do, and, you know.
So, do we have a motion on the
So I
floor?
move that we appoint our Superintendent Brooke Clenchey as the representative for the Nashoba Regional School District to the Aspet Valley Collaborative on our behalf.
And second, Kathy. All right, now does anybody have any questions or comments? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Congratulations. They do a good job. Find out about OPEB. Okay, old business. So the school. Okay, so after the last conversation on the overarching goals, I took your comments and I did it in track changes so you could see what was changing and what was going in. All I need you to do is to let me know if this is working for you now. Susan, you good?
I like it, yeah.
Lise,
think it's
Mark,
fine.
Lynn, Kathy. Okay, so given that these become our tenets for the year, what I would like to do is have these printed in a poster size and put it up in the school committee room so we always remember what we're supposed to be working towards. And you know, I can take that one on too, so that's no big deal.
You can do that.
So would someone like to make a motion to accept the Nashoba Regional School Committee overarching goal for the 2016-17 school year as amended? What?
17-18
17-18. Whatever.
school year.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Please, thank you. All set? All those in favor? It's unanimous. What a night. Great, thank you. What a night. Okay, so moving on. Subcommittee reports. I just want to add, we're now caught up with our time. Thank you very much. Who wants to speak to budget and warrant?
I admit I'm unprepared. We had a working session today, basically trying to plan out future conversations about policies that we know need to be developed, as well as the beginning of a conversation about having standard reports so that we can avoid having to ask for information one piece at a time so that it's a routine. And so that conversation will clearly be continuing for a while in the subcommittee and come up to the school committee for further conversation. So that's kind of where we stand at the moment.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you. Kathy, personnel.
At our last meeting, Brooke submitted a draft of her annual goals, and we gave her some feedback on them. She has sent me a revision, which I will get to everyone. Our hope is to be able to review them, to make a recommendation to the school committee to accept them at the second meeting in October. We also worked on a second draft of the school committee manual, and we had some input with regard to changes which we discussed, and so we would need a date to bring that. I guess it would be the second draft that these folks would see.
Okay, great. Good stuff. Lynn, the High School Facility Advisory Committee.
We met on Monday. You were there? Brooke was there. It went pretty well. We voted in the chair, Bob Sikansky, myself as secretary. We have a tour scheduled.
We have a couple days, so we're ready to send out,
to tour the school. And our charge is go, no-go for the SOI and meetings with the communities.
Okay, all good? All right, moving on. Correspondence, anything of note? Okay. Consent agenda, the meeting minutes of September 13th, 2017. The warrants of September 29th, 2017. Assume that they're good to go, so we'll move on. Items for next agenda, so we know, all right, so I'm going to use the calendar, so every time we get to this component of the agenda from now on, we're going to go through the things we said we wanted, because these things on this calendar now completely support and feed into our overarching goals, so everything's all ticked and tied. We know we want the Hale breakdown on the student activities account. We're going to have a bylaw review and discussion. We are going to have our school choice hearing and vote. A couple of questions, and I'm not sure exactly, so guidance presentation, that moves over to November. We also have the FY 18-19 budget timeline. Is that was that the first or second meeting, you think?
We've got a general timeline already drafted, to be honest with you, so we can, it'll probably ebb and flow, but I mean, we've got a general idea right away, so I mean, we can bring it to the first meeting or the second meeting.
So you guys got to decide that, but we want the timelines because the community's going to see it, so we want it to be kind of tight. And then we did talk about an OPEB trust, and I don't know where. So Pat, I know you've been working on that, and Mark and Kathy. Have you guys discussed that at the Budget and Warrant Committee at all?
No, we didn't come up at any of the meetings.
But what we did talk about was a separate meeting, right? And having folks come in. Do you have a?
We
would
have
you be
two
ready?
people that, two firms that we are looking at, so, and then basically, that's what everybody uses out there right now, so, I've consulted with, Steve Penman, and, he agreed that they were good choices, so, we'd like to bring them in.
So you'd like to bring, so would that be the first or second meeting you'd like to bring them in?
Probably the second, but I'd have to take a look at their schedules and see. Do you want to bring them both in on the same night, or?
Well, what I'm trying, we had said originally we'd like to do a dedicated meeting so we could do a deep dive.
Yeah, that's what I thought you had said too.
And if we do that, then that means that it's really going to be contingent on their time. But I think what we need to do is find out from the school committee what are absolute no-go dates. What's the matter, Susan?
Nothing, I'm just.
So you talk
There are a lot of sections of the manual that so I'm thinking.
Oh, all
yeah,
right,
like,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Stuff, yeah.
So do you want to do a separate meeting for the OPEB trust
So
discussion?
an additional meeting.
It would be an additional meeting.
How long, what are we thinking about in terms of
So I think the
time?
point of the meeting would be to bring these two organizations in to tell us what the steps are and the recommendations, and then be able to ask questions, because we would have to vote on that.
Are we voting to hire one or the other? Is this an interview?
At some point we would.
So are they going to be together, or are you going to have one hour, one and a
I don't know, I think it's dependent upon the time, and we'd like to get them together, but that's why I'm saying send me.
So you
what
want
are
the
you
meeting to be in
suggesting?
October? What are we thinking about?
I don't know, we'll get some dates out to everybody.
Why don't we do that? Let's send some dates out to you folks.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure that we need an hour with both to be with either one, to be honest with you. We might do a half hour, 15-minute break, half hour type thing. That's my vision anyway. And I think that the reason that you want to do it as a separate meeting is just so that if you want to do a deeper dive, you've got the time, you don't feel pushed, as opposed to trying to race through it while you're here.
Sure. No, I think it makes sense.
I think it's just exciting that you're looking at dealing with this. And
There are actually three aspects. There's the managers of the funds. We also need to establish a trust, and establish trustees, which would be us, or people that we appoint. And then also it's helpful for us to understand the liability end. We haven't seen the actuary for more than 4 years, I think, since he's last been here. And it could be an opportunity for that person to give a presentation about the liability side of this whole OPEB beast.
Okay, you are going to be in heaven. We need a separate meeting.
Well, is there okay, so you're looking at what it is, the management funds, the trustees and liabilities, and how they relate, and why we have to have them. Is there a primer or something for us before we go and talk to these people?
There was a great MASC workshop last year at the fall meeting, and I hope that there is a similar one this year as well, run by the treasurer of Plymouth County, who set up a multi-county OPEB trust that multiple districts and towns could participate in.
Well, that's not, so I'm wondering if there's.
And he was very helpful in terms of describing the
Is
lay
there
of
a
the land.
presentation, because their stuff is still online, if you could get a presentation so people can read up on it,
Yeah,
would you do
maybe I
that?
can go hunt it down and see
That's a really
if there's
good idea.
anything.
Good question, good answer. So will you hunt it down? And
Sure.
if you can't find it online, just contact Dorothy or let me know and I
Sure.
can, it's up to you. But I think that's a great idea. And that way, actually, the community will have a better understanding of what we're doing too.
And those are just the 3 areas that we need?
Those are 3 known areas.
We want to take your time with it.
Right.
So
this
this so
might
slow
get-
at it. There's no rush to.
Well, I was just gonna say,
do
this
it
gets
this
moved,
year.
this may get moved. But
Yeah.
it depends on, but let's do Lynn's suggestion, Mark. If you could get something and share it with everyone.
Sure.
And then, why don't we hold off, just let your folks know that at some point, if they're your recommended folks.
There aren't a lot out there. I mean, that's also part of it. There's not a lot of firms out there that are doing this kind of work.
Okay, so that makes sense. And then extended day food service, first, second meeting, do you have a preference?
I think we've already done that, Alita. I want to say it's the first. I think if you pull up the agenda, because we've actually made up the agendas already, and I believe that's on the first agenda. I could be wrong.
I've got I've got Jody's spec benchmarks on October 11th. That's all I had. And then, so we just need to know when, and if they're not going to be next meeting, that's fine. Any other items? Yes.
So we're meeting with the policy in 2 weeks to sort of do a workshop planning thing, and part of that will be the calendar for presenting sections of the manual. So I don't know, it didn't take long tonight, so if, we could almost be on every agenda from now until, because we've got B, C, D, J, G, G,
Okay.
F, G, H.
So which one do you think you'll be, so we'll just have a placeholder
I
for you.
think maybe D might be good next, if you've got those, it seems like finance has a lot of,
Well, we know that there are areas that need attention, but we haven't done any work, quite frankly. So we don't want to be in the way of other stuff.
Well, I can at least show you the recommended changes
Sure.
and the mass
That's not a bad
boilerplate
idea.
policies.
Sure.
And then you
Would
can
that be first
see.
reading?
Yeah.
So go with D next.
Yep.
And then
Sure.
we did D next, and then we did J after that. So I think maybe D and J on the next couple, whenever you have time for rest. No, not the same night.
Oh.
No.
Okay, so you want to do schedule D at the next meeting, and then schedule J at the second meeting. I know Alita, you wrote that
No.
down.
Yeah, no, weren't there some pieces of J that we were told same thing for the
Yeah.
wellness policy?
Yes, yeah.
And so
I'm
these
not
are these are
remembering
first
of
readings?
that.
All right.
Well, no, it would be for approval in form. I'll get them to you. I'll do what I did with A.
So these aren't first readings for D. So does that mess up him modifying them afterwards?
I think there will be more policies to come after we look
Yeah, I
at
think
it.
we're going to
Yeah.
have.
It's going to take
It's going to be
time.
ongoing throughout the course of the year. And we can't wrap it all up in one.
And even if we accept something in form, you can always go back.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and even if we accepted the whole darn lot of it, we could go back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. I said darn, by the way.
Right.
All right.
I was just realizing that on the bigger agenda, we don't have a spot for the annual financial audit report.
Well, I can't believe you brought that up because I just asked Superintendent Clenchey about that. So what do you say?
Sure. So Pat, I just want to do a quick check with you because I had said that normally you would wait till the audit. Is that correct?
And the audit is taking
next
place.
week, right?
Next week, the
Right.
audit is taking place.
So we would bring it back to you as soon as the audit is wrapped up and we've got it back in our hands.
Right. And I would speculate likely late November or December.
Really?
Actually, that's kind of what I said to Lorraine too. I thought it would probably be November.
Then you know what? We'll put it on the 11/29 meeting. How about that? Okay. I think that is it. We have 2 executive sessions tonight. And if someone would be so kind, Kathy.
I move to adjourn the regular school committee meeting to enter into executive session. So should I do both parts? To 1, review and discuss draft executive session minutes as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Discussion and possible action regarding release of minutes from executive sessions held on January 18, 2017 and February 6, 2017. And 2, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for units A and C, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares.
And that meeting will include Don Lowe.
Meeting to include Don Lowe?
Yep, part 2.
Okay, part 2.
Great.
And we'll not convene an open session,
And
right?
we will not to convene an open session. Yes, thank you, Mark. Second?
Second.
Okay.
Who else is
Roll
staying?
call vote. Lorraine?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Stephen is absent. Lynn?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Neil and Susan?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Are you staying? All right. Oh,
Yeah.
do we